Hi, I'm here today with Congressman Jim McGovern. Thanks for joining us again today.
Happy to be with you.
One of the things that I've read a little bit about and wanted to discuss with you a little bit was it seems that President Biden and at least nationally the Democratic Party just not as good at letting people know what's been accomplished as opposed to, I suppose it's always easier to be negative, but they don't seem to be as good at that as Republicans are when they're able to talk about positive things. Do you get that same sense? And are the Democrats doing enough to let people know about the good things that are happening?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not for lack of trying, right? I mean, when we passed the infrastructure bill, I mean, we talked about how, how many jobs it would create and how we could repair our aging infrastructure in our country, and why that was a good thing. Unfortunately, most Republicans in the House voted against it. But here's the interesting thing: they all went home and are taking credit for the projects that are being done. So, I mean, I think, I think Democrats, by and large, Democrats in Washington, actually take the business of governing more seriously. We don't talk in sound bites like "You make America great again," right? We get oftentimes bogged down in policy, where sometimes people's eyes glaze over. But the bottom line is, we passed a major infrastructure bill. We passed the American Rescue Act that literally helped, every single city and town in this country benefited from that. Shrewsbury, Worcester, they all received additional assistance to help deal with a lot of projects that, quite frankly, were on the drawing board. They got assistance to help deal with schools, where costs went up as a result of the pandemic. We helped save restaurants, small businesses all across the country, and there's a lot happening in the world right now. I mean, as we speak, Vladimir Putin is brutally attacking Ukraine, and so we're seeing that. We're focused on that, and I think also Republicans, again, are just good at sound bites, and they're much more disciplined.
Maybe that's it. They seem disciplined. They seem
right. I mean,
disciplined on a message.
Right. I'm always amazed that everybody, seems to be saying the same thing. And the Democratic side, we're a little bit more diverse. And I mean, if we were in Europe, we'd probably be about 12 different parties, right? So, I mean, we have liberal Democrats, conservative Democrats, moderate Democrats. I mean, you name it. And so we always don't sing the same tune. But here's what I tell people to do. I mean, actually, try to get beyond all the noise and just look at, it's you can follow this stuff. You go online or even just stay up with the news. Look at the stuff we're getting done. I mean, we just went through a miserable couple of years with this pandemic. I mean, hopefully it's a once in a lifetime thing. We'll never see this again. I mean, our economy shut down. Record number of people with shots in the arms who were protected as a result of those vaccinations. In massive testing. Again, massive investments in our schools and in our business community to keep our economy afloat. And here we are, we're dealing with inflation, which is awful. And we're dealing with higher gas prices, which we have to get control of. But, the economy is back, record low unemployment. And on the gas prices, we have to understand that these prices are set by the world market. I mean, we don't get to set them. But here's what I would say. I think we ought to get tougher with the oil companies. People talk about temporarily suspending the gas tax, at the state or the federal level. I would be open to that if I could be assured that the savings would be passed on to the consumer.
Right. Yes.
I mean, because but what happens? I mean, President Biden just unleashed a whole bunch of oil into the market from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, and it didn't do anything. The oil companies are making record profits. They have 9,000 licenses to drill if they want. They're not doing it because they can make record profits by gouging the American people. And so, it's sometimes you know, it's a message that sometimes it's not as clean as drill baby drill, which is a stupid idea, but the reality is that we need to get serious about investing in clean, green, renewable energy so that every time there's a world crisis, we are not, at the mercy of the fossil fuel industry. And in the meantime, President Biden ought to call these executives of the White House and call them in front of the press and demand that they stop ripping the American people off. Because, you can make profits during crises, but record profits at a level higher than at any other time by gouging people and not working to put more energy into the market. So, in any event,
and that message I haven't heard. So I'm glad you talked about that. I haven't heard that message really about how the oil companies are making record profits and actually squeezing the potential supply down, and that's interesting to hear. I think that's interesting to think about.
I mean, during the pandemic, production went down because we weren't traveling very much, right? So they didn't produce as much. Since then, they have not really stepped up their production, but they've done that purposefully, which is really unconscionable. And so now we're knocking on the doors of, we're producing records amount of energy here in the United States already. I had a guy at Dunkin' Donuts say to me, "Oh, all Biden needs to do is turn on the switch for the Keystone Pipeline." I said to him, "There's no switch to turn on. It's never been built. What are you talking about? If you wanted to build it, it's years and years. And by the way, we're told that if it was up and running, maybe it would save a penny a gallon. A better thing to do," and again, there's some money in the appropriations bill that just passed, helping to transition us to electric vehicles, helping to invest more in alternative sources of energy that will be good for our planet and that will not, make us hostage to these greedy oil companies. I'm sick of, corporate misbehavior. And again, I wish the president would get tougher on these oil companies. People are getting ripped off. And again, if we're going to cut the gas tax, either at the state or federal level, get something in writing that says that the savings go to the consumer. Because my worry is that what they'll do is just keep the money and keep prices high or even raise them higher.
Yeah, I don't see that as I'd rather use, if you want to use the gas tax money to build more solar into the whole system, that would be, and that makes us all self-reliant much more than.
Yeah, we have a problem. Our planet is heating up. We have climate change is real. We have food shortages around the world because of climate change. We have refugees now being produced because of climate change. Sea levels are rising. You talk to the mayor of Boston about the amounts of money that they're spending to protect their coast. Yes. New York City, the sea levels are rising. You go into some of these big skyscrapers and their basements are filled with water. Right? So this is real. So let's save the planet. Let's, give people clean energy and let's provide it to them at a reasonable price. And let's stop having to rely on these big oil company executives who care about nothing other than lining their own pockets. People don't deserve what's happening right now at the pump, but it's deliberate. And again, President Biden needs to call them in and really put it to them in front of the American people.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, thank you. I'm not sure we solved the problem, but we got some. At least we have something that that you did talk about some of the positives that are happening, and what are the real.
There's some good stuff happening. We have challenges, but let's solve the challenges, not demagogue these issues. Let's look for solutions and not just shout at one another. And let me just say this finally. Look, I'm a liberal Democrat. Everybody knows that. That's my political philosophy. But, I'm not averse to working across the aisle, when we find common ground. You don't have to agree on everything to agree on something. And I would like to think that there's a lot of something we can all agree on. And so everything doesn't have to be this big partisan battle. Let's figure out what that something is, get it done, help the American people. I mean, that's why I ran for office, to help people, not to make political points, not to get more Twitter followers, but to help people. And I think we have to demand that our elected officials, no matter what their political philosophy may be, that they're focused on getting results, getting things done, helping people.
Yeah. From your voice to God's ear, or whoever's ear. Thank you very much for joining us. All righty.
My pleasure.
We'll talk with you later, and we'll be right
right
back.